Carmen Garcia never imagined that returning a forgotten wallet would lead to immediate dismissal. At 24, this young waitress had been working at the Casa Pepe restaurant in Madrid for 3 years, living on the minimum wage in a studio apartment on the outskirts of the city. When he found a premium leather wallet full of bills on table number 12, his first instinct was the right one, to run after the elderly customer to return it. But the restaurant owner, José Ruiz, saw her leaving with her purse in her hand and jumped to the wrong conclusions. "Thief!" he yelled at her in front of all the customers, firing her on the spot. Carmen tried to explain the truth, but no one believed her. She didn't know the wallet belonged to Rafael Mendoza, one of the most powerful billionaires in Spain, and she had no idea that just a few hours later that man would show up at the restaurant to personally thank the angel who had saved him much more than 3,000 euros. Carmen Garcia was cleaning table number 12 when she saw it. An elegant, heavy brown leather wallet, forgotten on the chair where a distinguished older gentleman had been sitting shortly before. It was Thursday night. Casa Pepe restaurant in the heart of Malesana was closing after a busy day, and colleagues were already placing chairs on the tables to allow for cleaning. At 24 years old, Carmen had been working as a waitress for 3 years in that characteristic establishment frequented by tourists and locals. She lived on a salary that barely allowed her to pay the rent for the suburban studio she shared with her roommate Sarah, but she never complained. She was a cheerful girl, always kind to customers, punctual and honest to the core. The wallet looked like real Spanish leather. Carmen opened it to look for a document that would allow her to identify the owner. What she saw took her breath away. 50 euros and 100 euro bills, at least 3,000 euros in cash, several credit cards, and an ID card in the name of Rafael Mendoza. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. Carmen's instinct was immediate and natural. The older man had left just 5 minutes earlier. Perhaps he was still nearby. She grabbed her wallet and ran toward the exit, hoping to catch him on the street. She didn't think about the consequences. She didn't calculate what anyone who saw her might think. She only thought about doing the right thing. But José Ruiz, the restaurant owner, saw her running away with her purse in her hand. José was a cynical and distrustful 50-year-old man who had seen too many employees try to scam him over the years. When he saw Carmen running away with what looked like a purse full of money, his mind made an immediate and devastating connection. Carmen returned after a few minutes panting and disappointed. "I hadn't been able to find the gentleman. The street was full of tourists and locals, and he had already disappeared." He re-entered the restaurant with the intention of handing the wallet to the owner, hoping the customer would come back for it. But José was waiting for her with his face red with rage and his eyes full of indignation. Behind him were the other waiters and the cook, all standing, looking at the scene that was about to explode. José's words echoed throughout the restaurant like a condemnation. He accused her of being a thief, of trying to steal a customer's wallet. He shouted that he had seen her leave with the money, that he had always known she could not be trusted. Carmen tried desperately to explain the truth. He told her about the forgotten wallet, his attempt to reach the owner, his intention to give it to José, but his words fell on deaf ears. José had already made his decision, influenced by prejudice and mistrust. The dismissal was immediate and brutal. José told him to grab his things and leave immediately, that he didn't want to see thieves in his restaurant. Carmen found herself on the street with her wallet still in her hand, fired for trying to do the right thing. The customers present had witnessed the scene, whispering among themselves. Some seemed uncertain, as if they didn't fully believe José's version, but no one intervened in Carmen's defense. It was just an ordinary waitress against a respected owner. And in those situations, the young woman always lost. Carmen walked through the streets of Malesana with tears in her eyes and Rafael Mendoza's wallet weighing like a stone in her purse. He had lost his job for trying to do the right thing. She felt stupid, naive, punished for her honesty. When he got home, he sat down on the bed and looked at the wallet again. Inside there was an ID card that confirmed the name. Rafael Mendoza, 72 years old, resident in Madrid. There were family photos, business cards from important companies, and all that money that José thought she wanted to steal. That night Carmen couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned in bed thinking about the injustice she had suffered, the job she had lost, the bills she still had to pay, but above all she thought about the wallet she absolutely had to return, because despite everything that had happened to her, Carmen Garcia was an honest person, and honest people always do the right thing, even when the world seems to punish them for it. He didn't know that Rafael Mendoza was one of the richest and most powerful men in Spain, and he had no idea that the next day his life would change forever. Rafael Mendoza only noticed his wallet was missing the next day, when he tried to pay for breakfast at the cafe under his office in central Madrid. At 72, he was still an imposing and lucid man, with perfectly combed white hair and blue eyes that had seen financial empires build and fall. Panic immediately gripped him. In that wallet, there was not only 3,000 euros in cash, but also confidential documents, access codes, and, most importantly, the only photo he had of his grandson, Marcos, who had died in a traffic accident 3 months earlier. That photo was the only tangible memory she had left of the child she considered a son. Rafael had built an empire in construction and investments, but in recent years, loneliness was consuming him. His wife had died 10 years earlier. His only son had emigrated to Argentina to escape his father's shadow, and the only grandson who still gave him joy in life was gone forever. That morning he immediately called his personal assistant, Dr. Herrera, ordering him to track all the places visited the previous day. Rafael vaguely remembered having dinner at a restaurant in Malesana, but he couldn't remember the exact name. Herrera got to work, calling all the restaurants in the area, describing Rafael, and asking if anyone had found a wallet. Most of the locals responded negatively. Others said they would check and call back. Carmen, meanwhile, was experiencing one of the most difficult days of her life. She had woken up unemployed, with rent due in a week and no immediate prospects. I had spent the morning on the computer looking for job offers, but the available positions were few and poorly paid. Rafael's wallet was propped up on his study desk like a constant reproach. Carmen knew she had to return it, but she didn't know how to contact the owner. I didn't have the courage to return to the Casa Pepe restaurant. After the humiliation of the previous day, he decided to do some online research. The name Rafael Mendoza hadn't initially spoken to her, but a quick Google search left her stunned. Pages and pages of results. Rafael Mendoza, construction magnate. The billionaire who transformed Madrid's skyline, Rafael Mendoza, donates 100 million to charity. Carmen realized she had found the wallet of one of the richest men in Spain. This made her even more nervous. How could an unemployed waitress show up at the door of a billionaire? Who would believe him? In the afternoon, Rafael personally visited the restaurants in Malesana. Despite his wealth, he was a simple man in human relations who preferred to manage important matters personally. Pepe arrived home around 5, immediately recognizing the place where he had had dinner. José Ruiz almost fainted when he saw Rafael Mendoza enter. He had immediately recognized the richest man in the neighborhood, an occasional customer, but always generous. When Rafael explained that he had lost his wallet the night before, José lit up with pride and a servile smile. José told his version of the events. He explained how he had caught a dishonest waitress trying to steal his wallet, and how he had immediately fired her to protect the customers. He boasted of his speed in preventing theft and his moral integrity. Rafael listened with growing perplexity. Something in the story didn't add up. If the waitress was stealing the wallet, where did she end up? Coase could not give a satisfactory answer. He began to stammer out confusing excuses and justifications. It was the cook, an honest man named Antonio, who told the truth. He could not bear the injustice he had seen committed. She told Rafael how Carmen had run out to return the wallet, how she had come back disappointed at not having found the owner, how she had been unfairly fired for an act of honesty. Rafael felt his blood boil. That despicable man had ruined the life of an honest girl because of his prejudices. He immediately asked for Carmen's address, and when José tried to refuse, Rafael made a call that brought the civil guard to the restaurant in 5 minutes. José understood that he had made an irreparable mistake. Not only had he unfairly fired an honest employee, but he had also lied to the most powerful client he had ever had. His reputation and his restaurant were in danger. Raphael followed Carmen's lead and left the restaurant, leaving Jose to reflect on the consequences of his actions. As he climbed into his black Mercedes, Raphael thought about the young waitress who had sacrificed her job to return his wallet. It's been a long time since I met a truly honest person. That afternoon, Rafael Mendoza headed toward the outskirts of Madrid with an emotion he hadn't felt in years. The curiosity of meeting someone who could restore his faith in humanity. Carmen heard the doorbell ring at 8 p.m. and found Rafael Mendoza himself at the door. The elegant older man she recognized from the internet photos stood there, standing on the threshold of her modest suburban apartment. His heart stopped. He ushered him in with trembling hands. The contrast was striking. One of the richest men in Spain in his 40-square-meter studio with cheap furniture and unpainted walls. Rafael looked around without judgment, more interested in her than in the environment. Carmen picked up her wallet from the desk and handed it to him, apologizing for the delay. Rafael opened it, checked the contents, then took out the photo of his grandson. Her eyes filled with tears, caressing the image of the child. The story Rafael told was heartbreaking. Marcos was his only grandson. He came to visit him every summer. That photo was from their last moment together. The boy had died 3 months earlier in a traffic accident, and that photo was the only tangible memory left. Carmen immediately understood why he was so grateful. It wasn't the money that mattered, but that irreplaceable memory. Rafael asked him why he had risked his job to return the wallet. Carmen replied that it was the right thing to do. His mother had taught him that honesty is the only wealth that no one can steal. Then Rafael told him the truth about the restaurant. Jose had lied. He had described her as a thief, had tried to take credit for preventing the robbery. Carmen listened, hurt, but not surprised by her former boss's meanness. Rafael was furious at the injustice he had suffered when he discovered she was unemployed. Are you enjoying this story? Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now we continue with the video. He made a decision that changed everything. He offered him the position of head of the room at the Cardinals, his most prestigious restaurant with triple the salary compared to the previous one. Carmen couldn't believe it. It was too good to be true. Rafael explained that it was not charity, but recognition of merit. Finding someone with her values was as valuable as a diamond. That night, Rafael stayed at home for 3 hours. Carmen made him a coffee with her cheap coffee maker, and Rafael drank it as if it were the best coffee of his life. They talked about families, dreams, disappointments. Rafael discovered that he was studying economics at night school. When he left, Carmen felt like her life had just begun. Rafael, driving home, realized that he hadn't felt this alive for months. That waitress of pure values had reminded him that there were still good people out there, and perhaps he had found someone who could fill the void left by the loss of his grandson. Carmen's first day at El Cardinal restaurant was like entering a completely different world. The establishment was located near the Plaza Mayor, with elegant decor, beautiful glassware, and a clientele that included politicians, actors, and international businessmen. Rafael personally accompanied her, introducing her to the staff as the new dining room manager. The experienced waiters greeted her with curiosity. It was unusual for the owner to take a personal interest in the training of an employee. Carmen felt intimidated at first. I was used to the chaos of Casa Pepe, where the customers were tourists looking for cheap paella. Here every detail was important. Every gesture had to be perfect, but his natural gentleness quickly won over his colleagues and clients. Rafael often stopped by the store to watch Carmen working. He was fascinated by her ability to transform service into an art, to make even the simplest gesture special. A special relationship developed between them, with lunches held during breaks where Rafael shared his business experience. Carmen discovered that behind the image of the cold billionaire was a lonely man, hurt by loss, but still capable of generosity. Rafael told him how he had built his empire, lost his wife to illness, and ruined his relationship with his son because of work. A month after the hiring, Rafael made an extraordinary offer. He wanted to pay for her university studies and train her in business management. He had in mind to open a new restaurant chain and wanted her to be the one to run it. Carmen was overwhelmed by the generosity, but worried about the judgment of others. Raphael explained that the world is full of envious people, but what counts is a clear conscience. He had recognized rare qualities in her: honesty, intelligence, dedication. Raphael began taking her to business meetings, teaching her the secrets of business. Carmen absorbed everything like a sponge, studying every mechanism of the business world. At night, they stayed up talking. He told anecdotes from his career. She talked about her dreams. Raphael had found in Carmen the daughter that destiny had not given him. Carmen had found in Raphael the father she had lost as a child and the mentor every young woman dreams of having. They had both filled a void in each other's lives. But Jose Ruiz was about to discover how much it can cost to misjudge someone. Jose Ruiz realized the disaster when it was too late. Casa Pepe restaurant had begun losing customers the day after Carmen's dismissal. The regular customers were a no-show. Online reviews were negative. Suppliers were demanding advance payments. The final blow came with the visit of the labor inspector. Rafael Mendoza had filed a complaint for unfair dismissal. Jose had no documentation to prove just cause, and the inspector did not believe his version. The fine was severe, €50,000 plus compensation to Carmen. The situation worsened when Jose discovered who Rafael Mendoza really was, one of Spain's most powerful billionaires, with a network of influence that extended to the entire Madrid restaurant sector. One negative word from him meant ruin. Jose desperately tried to remedy the situation by calling Rafael to apologize, but the billionaire flatly refused to see him. "I had no interest in talking to a man without honesty or justice." Meanwhile, Carmen continued her extraordinary ascent. Rafael had enrolled her in a master's degree in business management, and she studied with complete passion. His grades were excellent. The teachers noticed his determination. Rafael's new project was taking shape, a chain of elegant but affordable restaurants. Carmen would be the general manager. Rafael also had another secret plan. He wanted me to inherit part of his companies. Having no children willing to continue her work, Carmen had transformed the Cardinal into the most sought-after restaurant in Madrid, with reservations for months. Her story had made the rounds in the city. The honest waitress turned into a billionaire's protégé, a symbol of hope for those who believe that honesty is rewarded. Rafael looked at Carmen with the affection of a proud father. He had done the right thing that day when he decided to look for her. Not only had he recovered his grandson's photo, but he had also found someone who gave meaning to his life. Fate had punished Jose for his injustice and rewarded Carmen for her honesty. But it had also given Rafael an unexpected gift, a reason to go on living. 2 years after that fateful day at Casa Pepe restaurant, Carmen Garcia's life was completely transformed. She had completed her master's degree with honors, was successfully managing the new Casa Mendoza restaurant chain, and lived in an elegant apartment in the center of Madrid that Rafael had given her for her birthday. But the most profound change would not concern work or money. He was referring to the family he had found in Rafael. What had begun as gratitude had transformed into a deep and reciprocal filial affection. Rafael had found in his protégé the daughter he had never had, and Carmen had found in him the father and mentor she had always wanted. Rafael had made official what everyone already knew. Carmen would be his universal heir. Half of his empire, valued at more than €500 million, would be hers. The other half would be donated to charity, as Rafael had always planned to do. The news had caused a stir in the financial newspapers. "The Cinderella of restaurants inherits an empire," headlined El País. From humble waitress to multimillionaire, Carmen Garcia's story wrote the world. But for Carmen and Rafael, those titles were unimportant. What counted was the bond they had built day by day. Made of mutual respect, sincere affection, and shared values, Rafael had taught Carmen not only how to run a business, but how to be a fair and generous leader. Carmen had learned her lesson. When Rafael began to have health problems, she took care of him with the dedication of a daughter. She accompanied him to medical visits, made sure he took his medication, and made him laugh by telling him funny stories from the restaurant. One spring night, While they were sitting on the terrace of Rafael's apartment overlooking Madrid, he gave her the most beautiful surprise. He had reunited with his son in Argentina. After years of silence, Lorenzo had called to reconcile with his father. The loss of their grandson Marcos had made them both reflect on how important family was. Lorenzo would return to Spain to meet Carmen, the woman his father described as the daughter that destiny has given me. Rafael was as happy as he hadn't been seen in years. Her family was rebuilding, enriched by Carmen's presence. When Lorenzo arrived in Madrid, the meeting was emotional. He was a 45-year-old man who looked very much like his father, with the same blue eyes and the same natural elegance. Initially, he had been suspicious of Carmen, thinking she was a profiteer interested only in the inheritance. But it only took a few days to realize that he was wrong. Carmen treated Rafael with genuine love. She took care of him without interest. She made him smile with her spontaneity. Lorenzo understood that this girl had really saved his father from loneliness and sadness. The three became an unusual but happy family. Lorenzo decided to move permanently to Spain to be close to his father in his later years. Carmen became the bridge between father and son, helping them make up for lost time. Rafael lived for 3 more years, the most beautiful years of his old age. He saw Carmen marry a well-known doctor during one of her many charitable initiatives. Saw the birth of their first child, a boy they named Marcos in honor of their lost grandson. He saw his company grow under the wise guidance of Carmen, who knew how to combine economic success with social responsibility. When Rafael died at the age of 77 in his bed, surrounded by the affection of Carmen and Lorenzo, he had the smile of a man who had lived life to the fullest. On the nightstand was still that photo of her grandson Marcos, which Carmen had helped save, along with a new photo of little Marcos, the child who carried on his name and memory. The funeral was an event that stopped Madrid. Thousands of people participated to pay tribute to a man who had managed to build wealth without losing his humanity. Carmen, dressed in black, but with eyes filled with gratitude rather than pain, gave a speech that moved everyone present. He recounted how a simple act of honesty, returning a forgotten wallet, had changed the lives of 2 single people, transforming them into a family. He spoke about the importance of always doing the right thing, even when it seems like the world is punishing you for it. Jose Ruiz, who had followed the story through the newspapers, had gone bankrupt 2 years earlier. His restaurant had closed, and he had learned too late the cost of injustice. Watching Rafael's funeral on television, she wept for the missed opportunity and the lesson learned too late. Carmen inherited the Mendoza Empire, as established in the will, but the most precious thing Rafael had left her was his teachings. He continued to manage the companies with the same spirit of justice and generosity that he had learned from him. He created a foundation in Rafael's memory that helped honest but unfortunate young people realize their dreams. Every year, he awarded scholarships to waiters, baristas, and workers who demonstrated the same values that had made his story so special. At night, when she put little Marcos to bed, Carmen always told him the same story, the one about the forgotten wallet that had changed the life of an honest young waitress. It was the most beautiful story I knew, because it was his story. And when the boy asked her why the waitress grandmother had returned all that money, Carmen smiled and answered with the words Rafael had taught her. Because honest people always do the right thing, even when it seems like no one is looking, because honesty is the only wealth no one can steal from you. Little Marcos listened with the same blue eyes as great-grandfather Rafael. And Carmen knew that one day he too would do the right thing, continuing the chain of kindness that a forgotten wallet had started so many years before. Like, if you think honesty is always rewarded sooner or later, comment on which story choice impacted you the most. Share to inspire those who think doing the right thing is useless. Subscribe for more stories of honest people changing the world. Sometimes a small gesture of honesty can change 2 lives forever. Sometimes the one who punishes you for doing the right thing gets the lesson they deserve. And sometimes the most beautiful families are born when pure hearts recognize each other. Because honesty is always the right choice, even when it costs a lot. See?